two numbers addition. For us to add, we're going to have to first line up the place values and work right to left. So let's look at the first example. Charlie is working on a job and needs to add up his hours worked in 1 week. On the first day, he worked 4 hours. On the second day, he worked 7 hours. He did not work any other hours this week. How many total hours did he work on the job? So for this problem, we need to add 4 hours and 7 hours. So we can go 4 plus 7 is our problem. Now, for us to do addition, what we're going to start doing is we're going to start lining them up by place value. So this is going to look like this. We're going to go 4 plus 7. And this is because 4 and 7 only have a place value in the 1 spot. Because 4 is in the 1 spot, 7 is in the 1 spot. So we just go ahead and add 4 plus 7. Well, we know 4 plus 7 is equal to 11. So what happens is, because it's 11, we put the 1 here, and then we'd have to add the other 1 to the 10 spot. So now we have 1 whole 10 and 1 whole 1s. So together, 10 plus 1 is equal to 11 when we add up our place values. Now let's look at another example. Example 2. Charlie is working a longer job over the course of 2 weeks. On the first week, he worked 42 hours. For the second week, he worked 49 hours. How many total hours did he work on the job in those 2 weeks? So, our first thing we need to do is line up our numbers. So we have 49 and this 42. And we're going to go ahead and add these numbers together. Notice we lined up the 1s and then we lined up the 10s. So in the 1 spot we have a 2 plus 9. So 2 plus 9 is equal to 11. So we leave the 1 below and then we're going to carry the other 1 to the 10 spot because we have a whole 10 which needs to be accounted for in the 10 spot. So now we have this 1 that's carried over plus 4, which is 5, plus another 4, which is 9. So 42 plus 49 is equal to 91. And we can label this as hours. So we have 91 hours he worked in those 2 weeks. Now let's look at another example. But before that, let's go over a math trick. So when adding, we can first round the numbers and then add the rounded numbers together. Then after we actually add the numbers, we can determine if the number we got is reasonable. So this is kind of to help us estimate to make sure when we actually add the actual numbers that they're actually pretty close to one another. So let's do an example of this before we apply this to example 3. So we have, say, 31 plus 67. So before we even do that, let's round these two numbers. Now this 31 is pretty close to 30 for our 10 spot. So I would just round down because if we round to the nearest tens, that 1 is going to dictate it, which is between 0 to 4. So we rounded down. Now 67, if we round to the nearest 10, would be 70. Because this 67 we have here, the 6, we look at the 7, which is up between 5 to 9. So we know we need to add a 1 to the 6 to then become 70. And everything after is a 0. So we add these two together. So 30 plus 70, well, 0 plus 0 is 0. 3 plus 7 is 10. So we get 100. So we know our number needs to be close to somewhere around 100. So we can kind of make sure. So we have this 1 plus 7, which is an 8. And then we have 3 plus 6, which is 9. So we can see our actual number is 98. Our estimated number that we thought we should get was 100. So we did really well then. Now, let's go ahead and look at the next example now. So we have example 3. Add the following. We have 697 plus 354. Well, we can go ahead and use our math trick if we would like, because we can set up our actual, we'll call it, because we're going to actually add 697, lining up the place values. So all the 1s are underneath each other, the 10s are underneath each other, and the 100s are underneath each other. Then we can go ahead and add. But before that, we can just go ahead and estimate or round. So we have 697. Well, if we want to round to the nearest, say 10s, 697. Well, that 7 is going to dictate that 9, so we need to go up, which is then just going to go up to 700, because that would be the nearest 10. So on the top number, we have 700, and then 354. If we want to round to the nearest 10, we have a 5, and we look at the 4. We see that's between 0 to 4, so we need to keep it. So it's 350. We add these together. So let's first look at our estimated rounding number. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. 7 plus 3 is 10. So we'll just go ahead and place the 10 there. But let's look at our actual answer. So when we add these, we have 7 plus 4, which is 11. So we put a 1 below, carry the other 1. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 5 is 15. So we put a 5 below, and we're going to carry that other 1. That means we have a whole 100. So we need to go ahead and count that in the hundreds place value and not in the tens. So now we have 1 plus 6 plus 3. So 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 3 is 10. So we get 1,051. So we can see that we did really good with our estimated number of what we should get, which sometimes people can start doing this in their head when they do this often enough to make sure when we actually do our math to make sure we got a good number. So our actual number is 1,051, and that would be our solution to example 3.